Welcome to Empower You, everyone. I'm Dan Reganold, and I see there is 59 of you who got here at our beginning early session. So congratulations, way to go. It was hard for us to get everything going just 15 minutes ahead of time, but we're so glad to have you here at these sessions where the goal is to educate, enjoy, and engage and really help get you more empowered in your lives. Tonight's kind of a people's choice session. At one of our earlier classes where we did some live call-ins, people specifically wanted to know more about the Convention of States, and people were a little frustrated that they had trouble learning how to navigate MeWe and wanted to know what other social media options were out there. So we're going to learn about both tonight. So one of the funniest things I wanted to share with you that I happened to hear the other day was there's this nominee for Assistant Attorney General. Her name is Vanita Gupta. And apparently, I haven't heard them all. I read a few of her kind of harsh, kind of off-color comments that she made about, can you believe it, made about Republicans. So she was in her confirmation hearings and she went on to say that she was really sorry that maybe things had gotten just a little harsh. But after all, people needed to understand that she was a product of her environment. Um, so I just wanted to remind you that if anything goes wrong tonight and empower you, if I say the wrong thing or if we have any faux pas, that I'm a product of my environment too. And what an environment it's been. Welcome. We're really glad to have you tonight. I wanted to introduce you quickly to our great Empower You team that hopefully you'll get to see at our studio soon. We've got our team of our executive director, Betty Overstreet, Jill Google, our operations manager, Bill Roll, our treasurer, Jay Grunke, who's on the board tonight. Thank you, Jay. And also our board members, Joe Platt, who's our kind of our political guru, Ken Bowman, Karen Cartier, Bill Monier, Nita Thomas, and Barb Horowitz. Our board is really honored to have the chance to learn with you tonight. As I said, April 6th, we'll be returning with live classes at Empower You Studio. And I see a lot of you are signing up for classes. It's really curious about this whole social media class we're having. I can't wait to ask Rich Inman this question. Why? This is the first semester out of 21. We haven't done social media at Empower You. And we've got our best attendance ever. I don't know what that means. Is there some kind of correlation with those two things? We are a free university. I can't kind of repeat that enough. We do have production expenses. And the easiest way to donate a couple bucks is to just go on our website, hit that donate button there. Or when you're signing up for a class, there's a little space at the bottom. You can throw on a couple bucks. Many of you really have, and we appreciate it. We thank you. So most of you know, we always start off our sessions with a required reading article. I found this article really interesting. It's about 5G, and it's about all the infighting that's going on in the United States with U.S. companies that are fighting over 5G rights. And this article goes on to talk about that there's so much infighting among American companies that China's kind of on a roll and just about ready to take 5G over, and it'll be hard for us in the United States and other allied countries to ever kind of make their way back. So it's an interesting article. 5G is the next really big thing. Whenever we talk about 5G or whenever it comes up, I have people drop me off articles here and tell me all sorts of things. So it's kind of an interesting subject. I hope you'll make yourself aware of, and you'll see this on empoweruohio.org. Tonight's giveaway. In Dr. Frank's class last Thursday night, one of the people's names who came up was Bjorn Lomberg. This is his article, False. This is his book called False Alarm. It was funny when I got this yesterday. This morning I turned on the TV and he was on being interviewed. I'd seen some news about this book a couple months ago. I hear it's incredible, and what this book says is, it says that it will convince you that everything you think about climate change is wrong and points the way towards making the world really a vastly better, if slightly warmer place for us all. Today, warm, not all bad. So this is a great book. To have the chance to win it, all you have to do is take your mouse to the bottom of the screen. There's a place that says Q&A. and just put in your email address, and we will pick a random winner from anybody who gives us their email address, and you'll have a chance to win this book tonight. So enter to win, and hopefully I'll remember to tell you who the winner is at the end of the class. So Thursday night last week, fun class. I had more people ask me how to watch a replay of a class than ever. People were emailing me all week long, and there were little groups of people. It was funny to see some who kind of were on Dr. Frank's side of climate change, some that were like, really against it. I could tell you a couple stories if I had the time, but it's simple to watch a class. I think you should watch this one. The data is what was interesting about it, other than Dr. Frank, who's a great presenter. But all you have to do is go to empoweryouohio.org, look for that March 11th class, just scroll down a little bit, and there'll be a link that says to watch a recording, click here. You can fast forward through it, and I think it'll be worth your time. Thursday night, we are looking forward to having Dave Hatter back with us, who will talk with us about everything security and privacy for your devices. And we're going to take live calls, kind of like we've done at the Pirate Radio sessions. If you've been there, you'll have a chance to ask Dave questions yourself. You won't have to ask them through me, and it should be fun. Dave is always really entertaining and always has interesting things to talk about. And then on Tuesday night, March 23rd, Sean Maloney returns to Empower You. If you haven't heard, if you're a gun owner and you haven't heard Sean speak, you need to come to this class. Sean is really one of the foremost gun experts in the state of Ohio, and he will review really the basic concepts of lethal force. And if you get in trouble with your gun, how these are going to be interpreted by legal systems, and what it really means to be a gun owner. What are the responsibilities? But let's get into tonight. We've got a big double header ticket. We're going to start off with a discussion about the Convention of States. We had the person who was in charge of Convention of States, Mark Meckler, in a couple of years ago to talk to us about this. You wanted to know an update of where we stood with the Convention of States. So Mike Mowry is going to be with us tonight. And Mike has served as the grassroots coordinator of the state of Ohio and was named that in 2017. I think this is a good quote that Mike had. I believe that the only viable way to restore the original structural restraints on the national government, like the national debt, is to pass amendments to the U.S. Constitution. That is precisely what we are trying to do through the Convention of States. The Convention of States project was co-founded by Dr. Michael Ferris and Mark Meckler in 2013. It has 5 million volunteers and supporters in all 50 states. To date, 15 states have passed a resolution calling for a Convention of States for the purpose of passing amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Currently, Ohio has over 5,600 volunteers and 74,000 signed petitions called on legislators to pass the resolution. I know when we had this class a couple years ago that the person from the Ohio House of Representatives who was in charge of the committee for the Convention of States sat in our audience, and everybody seemed to think something was going to happen, but it didn't. So we are so glad tonight that Mike Mowry would share some of his time. I believe he's up in Ashland tonight. Mike, are you there? Welcome.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for the invitation to speak tonight.
Glad to have you.
And as you and I discussed earlier, I'd like to just go through a general presentation for people that may not be familiar with Convention of States project and answer some questions at the end.
Okay, great.
So, but anyway, let's see if I can get this figured out here. Can you see my screen okay?
It looks good, Mike, just like it should.
Okay, great. Okay, generally, you've gone through some of this already. Back in 2013, Mark Meckler and Michael Ferris started this movement. We've been kind of active in Ohio since 2000.
Mike, could I interrupt you a minute? One thing
Sure.
I didn't mention, I really apologize, but if you have questions about the Convention of States, please ask them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. We're going to answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mike. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. But basically, as you've already mentioned, problems we see that we need to fix are the federal government spending away our children's livelihood. We face a regulatory crisis, congressional attacks on our individual and state sovereignty, and federal takeover all of our decision making. So our mission is basically to utilize Article 5, which we'll review here shortly, to make amendments to bring back bring back the proper balance between the state government and the national government as far as what they had to do with our daily lives. Why we need to act now? Here's some examples. Federal debt, unfunded liabilities. Everybody's kind of familiar with the national debt, which is projected to be 20 to 30 trillion dollars, but not many are familiar with the unfunded liabilities that are not included in that debt, which is what we owe for Social Security and federal retirements and other commitments we've made. I've seen projections this actually up as high as $100 trillion. Obviously, it's a house of cards that eventually is going to fail if we don't address the spending. The other thing that we're burdened with and we cannot get away with with the normal electoral process is the cost of regulations. We're all familiar with the deep state in Washington, D.C. that basically fought the last 4 years against the president trying to reform it. But still, cost of regulation in this country is still approaching $1.9 trillion a year, which is almost 50% of the national budget. As you can see on the right side, it shows what the average cost per household is of regulations in the United States, and it's almost $14,000 a year, which would, looking at the other expenses for a household there, the only household expense higher than the cost of regulation is the cost of housing. Of course, we were all familiar with the fact that the national government's trying to impose their values and the values of a majority in another state onto the rest of us. I'm showing these screens, and a lot of these things happened during the Obama administration, but they got court decisions, and then they came back and we're still prosecuting these people during the Trump administration. The poor baker in Colorado started his travails back in 2012, actually won a Supreme Court case, but it was a narrow decision, and they're still going after him with private lawsuits, and now it's over the transgender issue in Colorado. Basically, we had trouble with playing some audio here. This was an audio basically talking about the 3,000-page Constitution. Basically, the point being made was we were all familiar with the small pocket Constitution we're all familiar with. But the Constitution, oops, I don't know if you can hear that sound or not, but I'm going to go ahead and freeze it, anticipating you cannot hear it. But anyway, it makes the point that the Constitution we live under is not the one that was ratified by the people. It's the one that's been determined by a everly more progressive Supreme Court over the last 100 years. And the only way to reverse a Supreme Court decision is for the Supreme Court to basically North Stare decisis, or for the people to pass an amendment basically properly defining what we believe the Constitution to be. Having a little trouble because of this audio. I apologize. I'm just having a hard time getting by this slide. There we go. But anyway, to explain what the genesis of the Article 5 movement was on September 15th of 1787, 2 days before they finalized signing the Constitution. There was a Virginia delegate by the name of George Mason who basically objected to what was proposed to be the amendment method in the Constitution, and these are from James Madison's notes from the convention. Basically, Mason thought that the plan of amending the Constitution was not adequate because it only gave the national government the ability to amend the Constitution. And his thoughts were that if ever the national government should become oppressive and the three branches become collusive, the people would have no way of addressing the deficiencies of the Constitution by proposing their own amendments. So George Mason and a couple others in the convention proposed adding a second clause to Article 5, allowing the people to suggest amendments to the Constitution by way of their state legislators, by way of a method of convention, which they were very familiar with back during the colonial days. Basics of Article 5 is there's two ways of amending the Constitution. This is the active language of Article 5 here. The first method most people are familiar with, where Congress can propose amendments, and whenever 2/3 of Congress of both the House and the Senate propose an amendment, it goes to the states for ratification. So this method has been used 33 times. 27 times they have actually ratified those amendments. The second article, this is basically a graphic showing how this works. The amendments are proposed by 2/3 of Congress, and then it goes to back to state legislatures or to the states to pass by ratification conventions. Of the 27 amendments so far that have been passed, 26 have been used. They've been passed by state legislatures, and one has been passed by conventions by the states for ratification. Important thing to note here is that there's two different processes, two different groups of people. Basically, one group proposes, and then the states must ratify. Just a point of interest, the only amendment that basically had to be passed, ratified by conventions within the states was the rescinding of prohibition. And I think that was done because there were some state legislatures, I think, were probably not going to pass it, so they bypassed the legislatures by going to conventions. The second clause, which is what we're all about in the Convention of States project, it says, or on the application of legislatures of 2/3 of several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments. This gives the state legislatures the ability to make an amendment if there's a case that, for instance, some of them we'll talk about later, we do are term limits and fiscal restraints. We don't believe that the national government's going to limit the terms of office or to limit the borrowing and spending. And the only way we're going to think we can do this is going to be by using our state legislatures to make these amendments in a convention. This is a similar graphic to what you saw before. Basically, amendments are proposed by one group, which are legislatures, delegates appointed by legislatures at a convention. And then after the amendments are proposed, then is sent back to the Congress, and they just choose whether it is to be ratified by the state legislatures or by ratifying conventions in the states. The only thing that the convention that we're talking about can do is basically propose amendments. That's what's in the language of Article 5. Going back to that language, as you can see, it says, or on the application, legislatures of 2 conventions of several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments. That's all they can do is propose amendments by the language of Article 5. You'll hear a lot of our opposition say that they can do other things, but constitutionally, by Article 5, they can only do what's actually said in Article 5, which is propose amendments. Here is basically the ratifying clause, which applies to both methods, which is, again, proposals by Congress or by the states, if they can get 2/3 in agreement. Process for method 2, to repeat, because there's currently 50 states, 2/3 of the states is 34. We have 34 states submit applications on the same topic. Congress is required to call a convention. The states then use their own methods for selecting delegates to go to the convention, and then they send them to the convention. At the convention, the commissioners then will, first thing they'll do is basically appoint leadership and agree to the rules, and then they'll basically deliberate upon amendments which are within the topics which are allowed by the states that sent them. They basically give these commissions rules that they have to live by, which we'll look at here in a little bit as far as what they're allowed to discuss. The proposed amendments are then sent to Congress, and then Congress determines whether it's going to be ratified by state legislatures or by conventions, ratifying conventions. That is one choice they get to make. And the proposed amendments only become amendments if 38 states ratify. for 38 states to ratify. If in the case of the legislature, both the House and the Senate of that state have to basically vote to pass that amendment. It only takes one chamber in 13 states to defeat this, so it's a very difficult process to complete. Purpose of the second clause was clearly to correct the expected usurpations of power by the national government. We can read literature that was published at the time, plainly in Madison's notes. That's exactly why they put that in there. In the Article 5 plainly states that the power conferred to the mandatory convention called by state legislatures for the purpose of proposing amendments, and ratification is a later process that's done by the state legislatures or by ratifying conventions. According to Madison's notes, Madison wrote the following 43 years later when he was recapping this with a journalist. Basically, he said, again, this goes to the point that the reason Article 5 is written this way is for that purpose of taking care of a national government which is misbehaving. So should the provisions of the Constitution as here reviewed be found not to secure the government and rights of the states against usurpations and abuses, the final resort within the purview of the Constitution lies in an amendment of the Constitution according to the process applicable by the states. He's talking about the Convention of States process there. Also, we know that this is the purpose of it. Alexander Hamilton wrote in Federalist 85, by the 5th article of the plan, they can call a convention. The words of the article are peremptory. Congress cannot deny the calling of the convention. That is very clear. Alexander Hamilton wrote, we can safely rely on the disposition of the state legislatures to erect barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. 8 years at the end of George Washington's second term, he wrote this in his farewell address. He had just spent 8 years in the belly of a much smaller beast. He basically spoke to the necessity of reciprocal checks. To preserve them is just as necessary as to institute them. If in the opinion of the people, the distribution of the modification of the constitutional powers be in a particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in the way in which the Constitution designates. So Washington could even clearly see in those early days that was a distinct possibility. How our proposal is different, there are several Article 5 movements out there. Our mission is to develop a grassroots organization. That's for two purposes. One is to basically influence our state legislators into to calling this convention and to propose the proper amendments. But two, the grassroots organization is going to be necessary to reach out to our fellow citizens, explain to them the concept of self-governance and how we've lost that in this country. We need to reinstitute it. And Article 5 is one method of doing that. The Convention of States Project resolution gives a mandatory convention the power to deliberate on 3 general topics. One is fiscal restraints on the national government, limiting the power and jurisdiction of the national government, and term limits for the national government officials. We think that if some of these national government officials have to come back and live with the rest of us, they might be a little more careful about what they do as far as concentrating power in Washington, D.C. Of course, it's obvious what fiscal restraints mean. They can't continue to borrow money from our grandchildren to bribe us to do things we wouldn't do otherwise. Limiting the power and jurisdiction of the national government could be limiting regulations. It could be passing a what's called a countermand amendment, which is true nullification by the states, where perhaps a supermajority of states could perhaps make a ruling that and overrule Supreme Court rulings or laws by the Congress or regulations written by regulatory agencies. Currently, I know there's debates about whether notification is in the Constitution. I don't think it is there specifically in the Constitution. We could use a convention of states to put nullification into the Constitution. Mission 2, our job is not done when the resolution is passed. As I mentioned, we need to reach out and inform our fellow citizens to make sure that the proper amendments are proposed and ratified. Dan touched on this a little bit earlier. There's over 5 million supporters nationwide. 2021, our resolution is currently active in 21 states, pending in others. 15 states have already passed it. Ohio is currently getting ready to reintroduce the resolution in Ohio. It was currently SGR2, but as many of you probably know, once there's a changing of the General Assembly, everything goes back to zero. We have to basically start over again from a standpoint of writing and introducing the resolution. Again, the resolution in Ohio was previously SGR2. We've been told that the language in the pending resolution will be almost identical to what's in there now, at least in concept. What's in that is in that resolution. A lot of you have not seen it, so I wanted to review it here real quick. As it basically says here, the Ohio General Assembly, this is the language directly from the resolution. The Ohio General Assembly hereby applies to Congress for an Article 5 convention, basically proposing amendments that, as again, the three before, impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, limit the terms of office for its officials and members of Congress of the states. The resolution has fail-safe limitations in it. It speaks to the powers that Congress has regarding the convention. This is based upon historical precedent. Ohio General Assembly adopts this resolution expressly subject to reservations, understandings, declarations as described in this resolution. Confers no power to the Congress other than the powers to call such a convention. Ministerial duty consists solely of the authority to name a reasonable time and place for the initial meeting of the convention. The Congress of the United States shall perform its ministerial duty of calling a convention states project for proposing amendments only upon receipt of applications for convention states for substantially the same purpose as the application from 2/3 of the legislatures of several states. That's basically analogous to a conditional contract. Basically, we're calling this convention based upon the expectation that we're all going to the convention for the same thing. Limitations to Congress continue in SGR2. Again, this is all language from SGR2. Congress of the United States does not have the power authority to determine any rules for the governing of a convention of the states for proposing amendments called pursuant to Article 5. Congress does not have the power to set the number of delegates. That's to be determined by the states. Power to name delegates remains exclusively in the authority of the state legislatures. These are all procedures that were based upon history at the time of the founding as far as how conventions were conducted. SCR2 also states expected limits on the powers of the convention. It says by definition, a convention of states means that their state shall vote on the basis of one state, one vote. It's the way it has been in all conventions previous to that. Convention of states for proposing amendments to the Constitution shall be limited for consideration of topics specified here and in no other. It's important to note that the other states that have passed this Convention of States resolution have all used substantially similar language. This application is made with express understanding that the amendment in any way seeks to amend, modify, or repeal any provision of the Bill of Rights shall not be authorized for consideration at any stage. This application shall be void ab initio, void back to the beginning if ever used for any stage to consider any change to provision of the Bill of Rights. The Ohio General Assembly may provide further instructions to its delegates and may recall its delegates at any time for breach of duty or violation of instructions provided. So again, I think many of you have not seen those resolutions before. You've seen the general resolution we have on our website, but I believe you can go back into the archive and still see what SGR2 said then and what the pending resolution says once it is introduced. So this is talk a little bit about the grassroots in Ohio. As Dan mentioned, we're now up over 75,000 petition signers, 5,400 leader volunteers. State of Ohio, we've organized ourselves into 6 regions. Basically, we're trying to get a district captain in each of the 99 House districts in Ohio. And we found that administering that from a central location was unwieldy. So we have basically 6 regions with 6 regional support teams to try to reach out and inform people. Again, this is a state of all the House districts. We have 99 of them. I believe we have about 2/3 of them are currently filled, and with positions, many of them, we have what we call co-district captains to help out. This is how our regions are set up in the state of Ohio. This is a organizational chart of how we're organized. As you can see, we basically have a state communications team, and we have regional support teams that we're trying to set up in each of our regions, where we have a regional captain, a legislative liaison, events coordinator, media liaison, developer trainer, speaker, and videographer. If you go to our website, you'll see where go to a take action page, see the different positions with the state, with Convention of States project. Each of those state positions we're putting into the regional support teams to basically try to be more effective in each region. These are just descriptions of these positions that I usually go over in longer webinars or presentations. Learning resources we have at Convention of States project. Basically, we have Tuesday night webinars. We have self-paced learning at CUS University, weekly position conference calls, website resources, multiple books that we can recommend to you to read. Frequently asked questions from the Wisconsin Grandsons of Liberty. That's an interesting group. It used to be an opponents group that basically did an in-depth study of Convention of States, and they're now astute supporters of it. And they have frequently asked questions page, which is very good, and a very good book called Far From Workable. I'd recommend to anybody. Of course, Liberty Amendments by Mark Levin, Smashing the DC Monopoly by Tom Coburn, the Articles, Laws of Article 5 by Rob Nadelson. How can you help? You can sign the petition. You can become a leader or a volunteer. If you go to our website and hit the Take Action tab at our website, you can basically tell us how you'd like to help. Volunteer. There's a volunteer status at that Take Action page as well. Thank you for reviewing that. I'm going to do a quick summary. Again, we're compressing this pretty much. We're the Convention of States project opponents. To paraphrase what Ronald Reagan once said of liberals, trouble with our liberal, and I'm sorry to say here in this case, our conservative friends, it's not that they're ignorant, it's just that they know so much that's not so. We get a lot of people claiming that we're a tool of George Soros. I'd like to point out that here's a 230, Common Cause is a very progressive organization. And I'd like to point out 2 years ago, 230 of their organizations signed a petition basically opposing the Convention of States project. If I can draw this up or not. If this is working properly, you should see a page that says constitutional rights, public interest groups oppose calls for an Article 5 constitutional convention.
We do see it, Mike.
Great, thank you. I want to point out the 230 organizations that basically stated their opposition by signing off on this resolution. As you can see, these national organizations, what stated was the undersigned organization strongly urged state legislatures to oppose efforts to pass a resolution to call for a constitutional convention. We also strongly urge state legislatures to rescind any application. I'd like to point out the 230, some of the 230 organizations that basically signed this resolution. One of them, of course, being the AFL, Congress of Industrial Organizations, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. You got Greenpeace on there, Earth Justice. These are all basically a litmus test of the progressive left. We're hardly a tool of the George Soros ilk. This is clearly a demonstration of that. We can give you this list if you like. Any of this information we can provide to you. But again, it's 2 or 3 of these organizations from the progressive left have specifically stated that they don't want this to happen. And you can basically see this very easily when you see how the support for this comes out in your state legislatures. It's generally, we're a bipartisan organization. We do have some supporters in the Democrat Party. We want to try to get more because we think it's in our best interests for all of us. We look at ourselves as being a civics organization, not political, but you can see that we have far more support from the center right and the right than we do left to center. And then in other organizations, the progressive politicians, there's a audio here of Hillary Clinton ranting about Convention of States project and how we're going to ruin the country. Again, I don't think you'll find any progressive politicians in support of this. So puts to fed the lie that we're being supported by the left. Right-wing groups like the John Birch Society and Equal Forum are opposing us for various reasons we don't think are for true reasons that they state. I don't have time to go into all that tonight, but you can if you'd like to some other later time. And then self-proclaimed constitutional experts. Again, they put out things like, for instance, saying that this is a constitutional convention not limited to an amendatory convention, where it plainly says in Article 5 it's for proposing amendments. Also, they falsely accuse the original founding fathers of having a runaway convention, which could be disproven by examination historical record. Again, I have a presentation I could put onto that, but we don't have time this evening. Our Board of Legal Reference is a who's who of the right as far as constitutional knowledge. Again, this could be found on our website, so you can do the review of who these people are, what they stand for. Here are some of our endorsers from politics and popular media. As you can see, there aren't very many raving leftists on that list. Just check my time here. 7:24. I better stop here. I do have additional information I could send to anybody regarding the history of the original intent of Article 5. So stop here, let you go ahead and take over for questions and answers.
Great. And the website, I want to let everybody know it's a great website. So I really encourage you, if you have questions, to go there. So let's take some questions. Kathleen has a question. There are people who believe that the Convention of States would provide a vehicle for Democrats to destroy the Constitution. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, the only thing that the convention can do is to propose amendments. And if they go to a convention with 34 states, right, you saw the nature of the resolutions of SJR 2. You're going to have 34 states send those to a convention. They're going to limit themselves naturally to those topics. As you can see in the House resolution, the House delegation will be coming back, and the most important sail face is in order for any proposed amendment to become an amendment, you have to have 38 states ratify it. It's a very high bar.
So Sarah wants to ask a question. What is Ohio's process for selecting delegates?
Ohio currently does not have a formal process. We have some members of our organization have given some of the state legislators suggestions of what have done in other states. There's 15 states that have already passed this. Generally, I know I like the one that Louisiana passed. Basically stated that they're going to send 5 delegates, and only 3 of them can be active state legislators. They have to have 2 people from the state, which are not even involved with the state legislature. So each state will be different because it's determined by each state legislature. As far as Ohio goes, Ohio's not done that. They actually need to do this because Ohio, a number of years ago, did pass a balanced budget amendment convention call. So they need to have that for that resolution, even if they don't pass ours.
Peggy asks a question. Your proponents say that they can control who serves as delegates, but some legal scholars say that Congress may exert control over selecting delegates. This means the whole process could wind up in court and cause an out of control convention. I think that's probably the number one thing that people are concerned about, something like the Second Amendment getting thrown out in this thing. What's your take? What's your take on that?
Well, again, you'd have to envision that there wouldn't be at least 13 states that would stop that type of a process. You'd have to have 38 states to ratify anything like that. As far as Congress controlling the delegates, history clearly shows that the delegates were selected by the states and the colonies that sent these delegates to the convention. The whole purpose of the convention, plainly by history, is basically to avoid control by the national legislature. So we can't believe that the people in the courts would accept basically the premise that the prime premise for why this second clause is there would be defeated by any kind of control by the national legislature.
I want to make sure I understand this because it is kind of confusing and complicated. So the fail-safe for something like a Second Amendment or something getting thrown into this is that Most of the states are controlled by conservative legislatures. And all that would have to happen if something like that came up is that 13 states could just say no. Is that the fail safe?
Yeah, it's not actually even 13 states. It's just 13 chambers of those 13 states. So you'd have to have both the Senate and the House of each of those of 38 states basically saying that they would allow this to happen. And you're correct when you say that the Republicans do control a majority of the state legislatures, and that's pretty much true. Um, so I just it's just very difficult to envision any type of a concept where the people would give away their own rights.
David asked the question, if I understand these conventions can only promote amendments, I once heard, careful what you ask for, the conventions could open up an opportunity to lose an existing constitution. I think you've answered that question. Thank you. A couple other quick questions. Mark Meckler, one of the founders, I think I mentioned the other night that he's become the acting CEO of Parler. Is he still involved with the Convention of States?
Yes, Mark's still very much involved with the convention of states. Of course, we're all very much concerned about preserving our right to free speech. So Mark could not basically avoid wanting to be involved with what's a very important organization as far as the demonstration that we're not going to give away our rights to free speech by not having alternatives to the major tech censorship we've been seeing in the last year or two.
And you made the comment 74,000 people had signed the petition. How do you sign the petition?
Yeah, actually, it's over 75,000 now. Basically, you go to cosaction.com. You can sign the petition there online, and you can go to the Take Action page if you'd like to actively help us as a volunteer or as a leader. Also, we have information booths, quite a few events. If you want to go to one of our booths to get more information, you can also sign the petition at those information booths.
And would you repeat the website name, please?
cosaction.com or
COS.
conventionestates.com.
Bill says, instead of going to the states, why not go to ratifying conventions for any proposed amendments?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Dan?
Instead of going to states, why not go to ratifying conventions for any proposed amendments?
I'm sorry, I still didn't quite hear you there. I had a little break up there.
Bill says, instead of going to states, why not go to ratifying conventions for any proposed amendments?
Well, Article 5 only allows two methods for amendments to be proposed. One is by the U.S. Congress, which getting the term limits, fiscal restraints, and limiting the power jurisdiction of federal government is not going to be proposed by our national legislature. So the only alternative is to have a convention of states for the proposal of amendments if we want to stay within the confines of the U.S. Constitution, which I don't know anybody would recommend going out beyond that.
I think this is a good question and maybe a good place where we're going to have to stop. I really appreciated you kind of running us through this again. Jerry asked the question, and this is kind of a bottom line question. How do you expect the government to obey amendments when they aren't obeying the Constitution under its original intent? And I guess I would add the question, when things like the Supreme Court won't even hear cases that many people think that they should listen to, what happens then?
Well, that's the whole point of this. Is the fact that Supreme Court decisions have basically bastardized the original intent of the Constitution. If we have a Convention of States project and propose amendments which make crystal clear what the people think the Constitution means, they'll have no way of avoiding that. They can no longer say that they can no longer live with emanations of penumbras that gave us the things like Roe v. Wade and these things. So that basically that's the whole purpose of redefining what the people meant when they ratified the Constitution.
And can you tell us who's in charge in Ohio of this process, what committee it's going to, and who's running that?
We don't know for sure. We think it might be, again, the GOR committee, Government Reform Committee in the Senate. And there's a couple different, there's a Government Relations Committee in the House it might go to. Since they haven't been introduced yet, they can be put into any committee. We were surprised by where they went in the last GA. We are encouraged. We do have a lot of friends in both the Senate and the House, and the committees we think we're going to, we think we have friends as well.
Mike Mowry, appreciate you joining Empower You tonight and filling everybody in. I know everyone is just really really just on edge about this endless spending the government's doing, and appreciate your filling us in on your program.
I will say this, Dan, our membership and the petition signing has accelerated greatly since the last election. People are starting to see that the normal electoral process is not going to help. Convention of States Project, Ohio will have the same number of votes as California. Whereas if you go to the US Congress, California's got 5 times more votes than Ohio.
Mike Mowry, thank you for joining Empower You. Have a good night.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could, I want to just say, wow, that was great to kind of relearn that, and just kind of think about it. The thing I like about the Convention of States, and I know there are many people, there are several people that don't like it, is it offers citizens really one of the only ways for us to possibly win. There just aren't many. This is one, and that's what I like so much about it. So listen, we ended last semester at Empower You on November 16th and November 23rd. Empower You held 2 major classes to discuss free speech and the First Amendment. We discussed social media at those classes. In those classes, you all had a chance to send the CEOs of Twitter, Facebook, and Google messages about their services. We collected all those messages online. We collated them. We forwarded packages of information to Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, to Jack Dorsey at Twitter. And I just wanted to, I know this is, you may have seen this online, but I just wanted to show you how much respect they had for your input. This is from Mark Zuckerberg, refused package, came back, had no interest in hearing what you had to say. And then, gosh, it's almost like they were twins working out of the same building. Jack Dorsey, same thing, refused all your input. Couldn't care less what he had to say because they have all the answers to everything. That's how it feels sometimes. And many of you have reached out to me that I'm looking for a way to stay socially active, but MeWe's been hard for people to get. That's why we are so lucky tonight to have Rich Inman with us, who's a tech guru. And Rich is focused on leveraging practical technology for strategic advantage. He attended Tri-State University. He began his career working on manufacturing process control. He was a pioneer for computer telephone integration. He's built and managed wireless internet access solutions, and he's spent the last 15 years innovating with a large company's technology. He's worked with several nonprofits. He's a vocal privacy and security advocate. And Rich has volunteered to help us with MeWe, and he's also going to tell us about another social media opportunity. So Rich Inman, welcome to Empower You. Rich, you there? Glad to see you.
Dan, good to see you. Thanks for having me on. So you mentioned the social media and high tech giants that are there, and their response to privacy and security, and effectively, starting November, I all but deleted my social media accounts, of which from previous experience, been quite active. So lots of followers, lots of interaction, and most of those accounts were removed. I've been ahead of the January purge in that regard. I keep Facebook not to be active, but because it has some historical photos of some old relatives that have passed. So we're keeping the account, but there's zero activity there. So if you're looking for me on Facebook, you won't find me. So really, back last summer, started looking at some alternatives, and I felt like I was going into a clothing department, trying something on and tossing it out the door. There were over the last 6 months, 2 products that I've stayed with, not because they're beautiful and they're the easiest to use necessarily, but because there's no censorship, there's no resale of the data, there's no access to tech giants getting access to photos. Just recently, Facebook settled in court for, I don't remember the exact amount, but I think it was like $500 million for basically doing facial recognition, or using all of their photos for facial recognition, and creating a network of what faces you're associated with. So that was the largest to date, the largest suit for privacy with the big tech, and I think there's more yet to come. So out of that, I was contacted to work something out for your viewers on this session. Dan, I appreciate you having me on. It really comes down to a couple things. Looking at not so much, and I'll go into the slides. Give me just a second. I'll set that up on the other screen. There it is. Okay, so what we're looking at tonight is two applications, MeWe and Telegram. With MeWe, we're looking at how to sign up, setting up a profile, and how to find other users, find your friends, how to find, join, and create groups, how to post and comment, and while we're going through that, looking at the security and privacy options. And then based on time, we'll do this similar thing with Telegram. Telegram, interestingly, is all based on your phone number. So basically your cell phone. So we'll go through how to sign up there, and how to invite and message your contacts. So what we're not going to do tonight, give me a second, is we're not going to cover monetization. So a lot of people will put content out on social media to make money. We're not covering any of that. We're really not going to cover how to increase the people that are following you, nor cover social marketing. So today is about making sure that we spend time with those in attendance, answering questions, and making sure that we go through step by step on how to create an account. And so before we get started, and Dan, I'll ask you, do we have an easy way to do a hands up option here on this to get an idea and consensus of where we are with the group?
Rich, what you mean in terms of people telling if they kind of understand where you're at?
Understand where you're at. The first question is asking those how many have a MeWe account, so I can focus on the different steps there.
Okay, Jay, can you come on and is the hands up function operating?
It is not turned on at the moment. Did you want to use it?
If we can, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can activate it.
Yeah, sorry, just be a second. I think that'd be the best way, Rich.
You're talking about the raise hand?
Raise hand? Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Okay.
I think that puts an option at the bottom of the screen there, and then we'll clear that, and then we'll use that if we need to just to slow down, and then we'll still use the questions. And Jay and Dan, if we could, as it makes sense, to interject with questions as we're going, I'd love to do that, so we're covering things without having to go back too far.
Yeah, I'll be monitoring the questions really closely, and I'll fire them at you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so let me know when the hands are up. Looks like I've got 6 hands. Looks like some folks are asking. Good. So the hands going up, I'm assuming these are hands with who have a MeWe account.
Yeah, I'm taking it. That's what that means.
Okay. And how many out of 83? So that's about a little under a quarter. Okay, a little over a quarter. Okay, so we're going to spend a little bit of time. Yeah, if we can clear those, and then we're going to spend some time on how to create an account. And so going into that, I want you to take a look a little bit here at the MeWe's Privacy Bill of Rights. This is basically their promise to their users on what they do with the data. And I'm going to read some of this because I think it's important, and it's quite a departure from majority of the high tech and social media organizations. So you own your data. It's yours, not MeWe's. They're never going to target you with advertisements or content. You have full control over the news feed. I remember back years ago, Facebook actually used to have the news feed based on when posts were coming in, and they didn't manipulate those. And then all of a sudden they started to inject things at the order and at their discretion. So you get the ability to control what's on your news feed and how the posts, how the posts appear. They don't filter or change any of the news feed. You're the only one that can make that change. Permissions and privacy options are yours, and they never reset the default of those going into an account. So that way, if you are going from version to version, you don't have to worry about, like you do in Facebook, where a new version of Facebook will change the default permissions and having to stay on top of that.
Rich, I've got somebody who's got kind of a basic question. My sense is some other people are asking the same.
Sure.
I don't have any social media. Should I keep it that way, or what are my main reasons for wanting to initiate something like this?
Well, it's a really good question. So those who are in that in social media just to keep up with family and friends, and potentially, how we used to meet up and share photos and share stories of our family and friends. Well, those options, especially in this last year, have been hard to achieve. So there are a lot of folks that prior to this last year really didn't do much with social media, and this year gave them an opportunity to keep up with family and friends in their terms, socially distanced manner. So wherever you are on social distancing, having the option to keep up with those who may be naturally distant, and being able to sit down over a coffee and so forth and either share or look at your own leisure to be able to share photos and stories of loved ones is a reason, or are some reasons to do this. The other thing is that if you don't want to limit your news to what's on TV, and you don't want to have to go through several different web pages to get the news that you want, social media is a way to opt in to the news feeds of the organizations that you trust, and for them to basically present their news or articles chronologically, in this case, or effectively be able to get into those groups or pages, as opposed to having to bounce around the internet to do so. So there are a couple different reasons why, if you haven't been in social media and that you're not trying to grow followers, reasons why you would be part of social media. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this that I've all but exited social media over the last 5 months. And frankly, that was as much out of disgust as anything, and slowly will grow back in what I hope to see as a much healthier social media use. And we'll go into more detail on that later. Hopefully that answers the question, Dan.
Thank you. I think so. Yes. Thanks.
So you get into controlling content and not having your face or your information being sold to other companies or for use within the government or other entities. Having your privacy and your security is really the biggest reason that looked at MeWe. And there are other companies that state that they will not utilize the data, but they've been found to do so. And the way that MeWe has their data distributed, there's an awfully good chance that that they will stay true to their privacy bill of rights. So the other thing is that it's a privately held company, so you don't have shareholders that can over time manipulate the direction. So in this case, being privately held has its advantages. Both of the solutions that I'm talking about tonight are privately held. So go from there to sign in. This again talks a little bit about your privacy and it not being for sale. And so I'm going to do this from a PC first, but I'll also have available showing you how to do this by phone. It's essentially asking for the same information. And so you have an option with MeWe to use your email or to do all of the sign up utilizing your mobile phone. That's something also that's different from most of the other companies. And so essentially, if you put your name in here and your phone number and or email address and a password, click those boxes there and say get started, you're on your way. After you get into that, it's going to ask you if you want to sync your contacts, select your contacts, or if you want to skip this. Now, I have several contacts several people in my contacts. I choose not to synchronize all my contacts. I don't necessarily want the people at my work or the people at one organization I'm associated with and another organization I'm associated with necessarily in all my social media. So being selective is available here. Some other social media, or most of the other social media, they basically sync your contacts or don't sync your contacts. And in some cases, you either sync your contacts or you don't use their application. So here from a web perspective, if you have one of those mail packages, you can say sync contacts, click the email, and it will synchronize the contacts that you have in that mail package. Once that's done, it will this is one of their advertisements. So basically, when you get that far, it's going to send an email to you. It's basically verifying that that your email is accurate, and it will do that a second time once you click the OK in there. This advertisement comes up basically saying, hey, if you want to join as a paying member, then click here. You get 30 days free. So effectively, you can pay $5 a month if you want. You can choose not to and get the base options. It depends on whether or not you feel like supporting an organization that's being respectful of your privacy. My personal account is a premium account. I feel that it's worth it to me to have an extra 100 gigs of cloud storage, and at the same time be able to do a lot of the videos that I capture off of other sources that end up getting taken down, I've been able to publish here, and it's been worthwhile. So, but at the same time, 99% of the features here are available to the free users. So once you are online, you've gotten your email and validation, then it's going to basically ask if you want to work with your like search for other members. So look for your friends, design your profile. So go in and fill out your bio and so forth. Or if you want to search for some of the open groups, or start your own. So that's the first thing it does once you get past the ad. And when you're done, you have a basic page here, and this is the starting point for the application. Now, this is the end of my PowerPoint for this one, so I'm going to go over and bring up my MeWe here.
Hey, Rich, one person had a question kind of right up that ties in to whether they want to get rid of Facebook. And the question was, if I delete my Facebook account, does that delete all the posts and photos, or would I have to go into 8 years worth of stuff and delete that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Facebook, I've not been active since November, but I'm not deleting my account because of access, either for files that I have on there, or for access for files that are on accounts that are, let's say, I forget the term that they use, basically the accounts of those who have passed, because you have history there that you may not want to lose.
I've taken the same exact approach as you. So
yeah, so I'm not going to delete it. But if you go out there on my profile, it'll tell you that I'm not active and not to expect any replies. So from that perspective, that it seems to be common for at least those around me that are taking similar approaches, is to keep Facebook. Matter of fact, I keep Facebook Messenger as the only Facebook product that I have any use of, and effectively it's because there are a few people that I have that's the only way that they interact with me. And so, but otherwise, every other Facebook product has been removed from every device that I have. So that would be my recommendation.
thank you.
So let's see, make sure that we got the right account up here, and we hit home. That way, just refresh this. So this is just the training account for today. Some of you may recognize my pseudonym for the day. So we're going to be doing some training utilizing this. This is not my production or my normal account, but I wanted to have an account with effectively very little done in it, so that we can show how that gets accomplished. And I've got Daniel, my son, on another account here that will be interacting from another PC as well through this, just to show how hosts show up and how you communicate on MeWe and find users. Now, I'm going to go to basically a way to find users or let the other users find me. So I'm going to go to my profile. So this is me. I don't have a picture. So over here on this side over here, and then my picture or my profile. At this point in time, it shows all my profile information. And if I go to the bottom, there is a link. And so anyone that goes to MeWe.com/I/William Hunter, as you see there in that, with your current MeWe account, you can join in and tonight, and we'll play with that a little bit in terms of being able to post with each other and see stuff show up in this. So I'm going to pause just for a moment. I highly recommend or invite you to take a moment and go to MeWe.com/I/William Hunter, as it is there in the bottom left, right here, and take a look. Can I send links with this like I do in the chat? Can I put those out in the chat for others to see?
Or
Yeah, you can copy any text and put it in a chat message, but in that chat window, make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees if you want everybody to see it.
Got it. Will do. Thank you. Okay, so I just put a link in the chat. So if you go to that and follow it, you should be able to say follow, and then I'll start seeing folks show up on this account. At this point, I'd like to have a show of hands of those who would like for me to go over signing in or signing up step by step again before we go forward. So can I get a show of hands?
I'd say maybe just keep moving.
Okay. All right, so let's do an F5 here. So I'm starting to get some contacts, and you can see that I have four contacts here showing up, and that means that there are 4 requests to join. Okay, so I'm going to accept. Yeah, now these are all my contacts. So thank you. And through this process, please put some posts out there. I'm going to show you if you haven't put any posts onto MeWe. I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. But the easiest way to share is to do what I just did, and that is to go into your profile and select this and send that link to any of your friends that you would like to join. And then if they follow that link, they'll show up in your list and you can accept them as they come in. Okay. Oh, let's imagine William Hunter getting a Martin Blythe to join. Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Okay, so also Martin Blythe, I think, has a page that or group that we want to look at. So we'll go out here, and St. Benedict's School has a group that was created by Martin Blythe. So effectively, that works the same way. And if you go out and search for that, let's see, invite your friends. So you get this effectively, anyone who wants to join it. I'm going to just select a few folks here, and you obviously can remove this when we're done with the training today, but I'm using this as an example of how to to invite friends to your groups. So for the next comments here, anyone recognize the reference of Martin Blythe or my pseudonym or St. Benedict School? Excellent. So we got some new attendees. So I think that Martin Blythe will probably drop some notes or content in here over the next few minutes. So we'll start seeing some content show up. And just as that happens, you'll see on your groups the little numbers, just like I saw the members show up or a few minutes ago, or the followers. The number of new events or new posts will show up next to the St. Benedict School as that happens. Okay. So it looks like I got 2 more followers. So that's on my profile, my contacts. And so I'll go ahead and take care of this as well. So I think this is important to show, though, in terms of, this is very different from Facebook in terms of in Facebook, a lot of this moves around and you really don't have the same like base page that you're working from. In MeWe, basically you're working everything from a single page, and you have either your profile information here, or you have the chats, groups, and pages that you'll either for exploring or be able to see new posts. The difference here.
What's the difference between a group and a page?
So a group is a group of people who will basically share content. A page is more for promoting an organization. So an organization will have a page where a group of people will have a group. So structure-wise, it's similar, but the other thing is that on the pages, like for example, if I go out to new page, to connect with 100% of your fans for just $1.99 a month. So I don't feel like dropping $2 a month in for this at this point, but effectively, it's a inexpensive way to have your organization or company with a presence.
Just curious, Rich, are there different types of groups, like, public or private or secret or that type of thing?
Well, whether it be groups, pages, or anything, when we get to the privacy part, you'll see that you have complete control of privacy for any aspect within MeWe, whether you're in a directory or whether others can join. So we'll create a new group. And just type in a name. It doesn't, you don't have to worry about duplicates. Pick a background and a color, or pick whatever, or just take what they've given you, and the type of group. So you can categorize it, you can search by category, or you end up doing your own. So I'm going to say here, that's definitely not where I'm going. What if I could type? Sometimes there's just no nothing that fits.
Now, Rich, somebody just sent a message, Debbie, that says, my MeWe page on my iPad Pro, and I know it's this way on the phone too, looks nothing like yours.
So I'm gonna, yeah. So as I mentioned, I'll show MeWe on my phone as well, just because the menu on a phone and the PC are different. So let me pop that up real quick, and I'll show you what that menu would look like on that side in just a second. So share. Oh, I got to unshare on this one real quick. Okay, so in this case, this is the same account, but on a smartphone. And so most of this is similar. You have home on the left, just like you did on the PC. You've got your personal profile on the right. And then the groups and pages are underneath here, so under communities. So effectively you get so all communities, groups, or pages. So effectively they categorize both groups and pages under communities. So that's where you'll find those. So you'll find the under communities, the groups and pages that are associated.
For
Okay.
anybody looking to add other friends, I just put my link up there on in the chat area down at the bottom of the screen. Please send me a friend request. Thanks, Rich. Keep going.
Awesome. So this effectively is the same type of interface. And so we were looking at a group earlier that was created. Let me move this whole thing up. That's my sharing. And so if I'm here, I should still be able to see everyone that all the posts from before. So creating posts and doing the work works very similar. You've got it obviously is different between Android and iOS. So I would expect that your icons will be a little different, but the what I've seen by looking at an iPad on this, it's similar, but the buttons are and icons are a little different, but the same concept is there for each of these. If you're finding something that's completely different on this, please ask and we'll figure out with you what's going on there. Got another contact. I'll take this one by phone. Okay, so I'm able to do the same activity on the phone as I'm able to do on the PC. Okay, so I'm going to unshare here and go back over to the PC. This is one challenge, Dan, that I wasn't expecting. From the last time I did a social media event early on with you guys, it was, let's say, all PC based. So it's been a long time. So trying to figure out how to have good examples on PC and mobile device was a little bit of a challenge on this. So going back to screen share. All right, so we were talking about creating a new group, and Jay, you asked about privacy and so forth. This is where this is done. So when you're creating a new group, after you put a name in, you basically choose whether it's completely private by invitation, it's an open where anybody can get to it, and there's a QR code that you can share with others to join, or if you're selective, and meaning that it requires an admin or an owner to allow you into the group. It still has a QR code that's shareable, so that you can get others into the group easily.
Yeah, that's good. The terminology is a little different, but it's very similar to Facebook and how you can set that up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now the other thing there is, what rights do they have? So members will have what kind of permissions? Are you going to allow them to post, comment and chat and invite others, or effectively what access do you give them? In some cases, it's view only, and so there are different abilities by group. Okay, so I'm going to have this selective, and here's one thing: when I hit selective, it opens up some other options there. Do we want to include this group in the MeWe directory so that others can find it? Or do you want to have that QR code or link in order to find the group? The other thing is that do we want people to be able to take what's in this and share it outside the group? And that goes to privacy. So you may want to be able to share with those you've allowed in, but you don't necessarily want those that you've allowed in to be able to share that content in other areas. And so if you don't allow them to post outside, they're not going to be able to share. Now, there are pros and cons to each, and you can decide when that's applicable. Okay. All right. So I'm going very generic here. I'm just going to create this. Now there's a new group that is out there for social media discussion, and it would require invitation. So any of you can create the same thing. If you want to invite me to a group that you create, that's awesome. Or anyone else that's on this group here, you're free to invite them. And just like your user account, at the bottom left, you have a direct link to that group, so you can share that group with others. Now, if you're on your smartphone, when you click the link in there, it will take you to how you would share with any other applications, like any other share capability. And I'm going to drop this in. Okay, so we've done effectively. We've created a group. We have created users. We've talked about how you can invite others. Oh, look, we've got a new member signing up. Thank you very much. Now, Debbie, if you don't mind, I'm going to move you change your permissions. Since you're the first one in here, I'm going to change you to an admin. And so if you can accept people that are joining, then that'll give you some experience on how that would work. So you saw what I'm doing there in terms of as they show up, just hit accept on the ones that come in. Okay, so again, if you have the user and profile, we've looked at groups. We'll go to chats here in a moment. And so, oh, look at that. We got a few in here. So, oh, there's Amy. So I'll chat with Amy. And so this works much like Messenger. It's not a separate application. It's embedded into the same tool. Something that is different that I like on MeWe over Facebook is you have the option to send files. So Facebook, you can send pictures, but you can't necessarily send files. And so if I want to send a PDF, that gets difficult in Facebook. I can send a PDF here. looks like Carl, thank you, Carl. Comment to St. Benedict School. Everyone that's in that should be able to see it. See that on multiples. So everyone that's in that group will see that. So any group can have posts as well as a chat. So my group can have a post. So for example, if I want to go out and St. Benedict School, we'll do St. Benedict School because more people are joined on there. I am posting this group. In a second, I'm going to off screen pull up a web link. Maybe. Oh, because I'm sharing. All right, I'll find it here.
Yeah, we like that.
So that's just as easy as it is in Facebook. So some difference there. And for those who are looking, there are emojis. The emojis are virtually unlimited compared to what you have in Facebook. I don't know about you guys, but I get tired of being stuck into 5 or 6 categories that don't quite make it. I'm waiting for the duh emoji. So here you've got any emoji you can think of. It's out here someplace. So
Rich, one of our attendees asked the question, how do I join the social media discussion group? Is it just as easy as putting in that the URL under the chat window?
It is. So if you go to the go into the chat and you click the link for the social media discussion, it will take you straight there. And while you're there, you can click the follow on the right hand side.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Marlene, I hope that helps. So if you guys can find that link, because there are several of you who joined the in this case St. Benedict School as our example tonight. If you go out there and find, you should have this post that's out there, and if you can apply an appropriate emoji or comment, that would be fantastic.
Marlene made the comment, unable to find.
Question, Marlene, unable to find the link, or when you click the link, it doesn't take you anywhere?
The link. It's right above your in the chat. It's right above your chat, Marlene.
Now maybe I put that in for panelist only. Let me take a look and see if I did that, made that mistake.
That could be.
No, it's panelists and attendees.
Yeah.
Okay. So I tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna take that and blow it up here, so that you can type it in. Actually, let me move this down. That may make it easier to see. So it is social media discussion all together. So MeWe.com/join/social media discussion, all run together. So another question, Amy, that's a good question. I have found that sometimes when you create a group, it is not immediately searchable. I had the same issue in Facebook. When you first create a group, sometimes it's not there for a little while.
Rich, I've got a question. I think it's a good one where someone said that, they've never done this before. And it's even though I think you're moving at a very nice pace, slow pace, that it's just a little too fast for them. How would you recommend that somebody like that actually got started after they created their profile? Would you just suggest maybe they post something every day or two, or what do you think's best?
I would. And as far as that goes, I'm going to keep these accounts up here for a while, and I'll be using these pseudo accounts as a way to keep up with your attendees. And so if you, especially the social media discussion, if we can get to the point where they can get to that link, then I'll be monitoring that over the next few weeks, and absolutely willing to help out one-on-one on getting some of those
So
completed.
let's make this clear. On the empoweryouohio.org website, I'm going to post that link that Rich has posted, and it's going to be, if you go to the date March 16th, the link's going to be there. If you're on MeWe, you can click that link and you can join social media discussion. And Rich said he'd be willing. You can ask for help, and he would be willing to help you. Is that right, Rich?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
I'm not going to be like right there every minute, but over the course of the day, I'll give you within 24 hours, you'll get a response, because I still have a day job, but I'll help you out best I can over the next couple months. Okay.
I think that's fantastic. Now, time is kind of starting to move. I mean, are you going to want to try to get into Telegram, or do you want to maybe make that a separate class, or how do you want to handle that?
So this is, I think, was the basics I wanted to get out of MeWe, is just showing how to sign up, how to find a group, and how to create a few things. The next thing is, and I think that I can do a very quick how you sign up on Telegram.
Okay.
I'm going to do this all from phone. Let me switch shares for a second, and hang on, wrong computer. Okay. So this is a lot of stuff I've got on Telegram. So up here, if you download Telegram, and when you go in, it's going to take you to a screen that basically looks like this. It's basically looking for your phone number. And so you type your phone number in here, and where it says sync contacts, that's up to you. But I will tell you that the one thing about Telegram is that the data, one, it's end to end, and the data and the accounts aren't stored on the same servers. So I am less concerned about sharing contacts on Telegram than I am on most platforms. So, and after you do that, it'll ask you to verify, and then you'll end up with an account. So once you have an account, you can place phone calls. You can record messages. Effectively, if you have used WhatsApp it has nearly the identical features of WhatsApp, which unfortunately became another Facebook property. So Facebook's farming WhatsApp just as much as they are the native Facebook application. So this is a secure opportunity to replace WhatsApp as well.
Rich,
So
just briefly for our folks that don't do this stuff like every day, when you say download Telegram, you are referring to either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, correct?
exactly. Now this is available on a PC. You're just not going to have near the capabilities that you would on the smartphones. And so from that perspective, this is another one that we can either come back and do a short one another time, Dan, to go into a little bit more detail on this, but I'll also offer the same thing on creating an account. I'll use that same MeWe group, the social media discussion, for anyone that wants to get a little help on that one as well.
And Rich,
Okay.
that link is up on empoweruohio.org now for anybody who wants to join and be a part of your discussion. I just joined, so thank you. Keep going.
Okay, so effectively, the biggest thing on Telegram, just like WhatsApp, is the ability to make phone calls pretty much anywhere on the planet, and be able to text anywhere on the planet. If you and the other person have smartphones, you can utilize the application. I communicate with my in-laws and extended family in South America, utilizing WhatsApp and slowly migrating them over to this tool. It's faster, and I know that I don't have Facebook listening in on the communications. So make a recommendation for replacing WhatsApp with this tool. So when we started this discussion, Dan, Parler was obviously in the mix. I would love that if that ever gets resolved, to have some discussions there, because that was the first set of slides and training that we had set up was to focus on Parler, but we are hopeful that gets resolved as well. So I'd like to pause for any questions and let you guys direct how long that lasts.
Thank you. Well, Nita asked the question if you could post your slide deck on the website for people to view, or is it better for people maybe just to rewatch the video that we'll have available of the class tomorrow at 4 o'clock?
I think it would be worth watching the video. At the same time, I've taken some snapshots throughout this, and I'm also going to go through and make sure that I address questions that were part of this conversation, and add those into the slide deck.
Okay, good. And we'll post the slide deck. Amy there's lots of questions about Facebook. People are really worried about, losing everything they've got on there. Does Facebook have the right to delete your account? Amy asks, if your account sits inactive too long.
So they do have the right to remove your account, just as we saw accounts getting removed across social media back in January. And in the end, whether you're active or not, they can still remove it. But just to be clear, the posthumous accounts are ones that are left out there for those who have passed, and you're not going to see any more activities on those. And Facebook's definitely keeping those up. I have an expectation that Facebook will keep the content that it has, because it sells that content to those who have that want your data. So
there's a question that David has. Is MeWe and Telegram, do you know if they're hosted on private servers, or is this another thing where they're hosted on Amazon Web Services?
No, these are on private distributed servers.
That's excellent.
So they own their infrastructure, and let's put it this way: there are some of their resources on third-party hardware, but it's distributed such that they can't take it all down. Unfortunately, Parler was fully vested in AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Right.
And so it was easy for Amazon to take them down because they were utilizing some of the deep hooks into AWS. That was unfortunate.
Mona wanted to ask the question, can you use a landline for Telegram?
No, I had to think about that for a second.
Yeah, I know.
So
that was a tricky one. And then Rebecca wanted to know, are we hurt? I think this is her question. Are we hurting Facebook by letting the account remain and letting it go inactive?
I don't think we're hurting them because effectively they're still monetizing your data. So we're not hurting them at all. And even though we're let's put it this way, if enough people were to move away and just leave their accounts sitting, at some point in time, they would be getting less and less advertising revenue, and they may decide to do something else. But if you look at it, Zuckerberg's influencing, what was it, 2.8 billion people? I think that was the number I read. And so it's going to take a lot of us to move off the platform for them to be financially impacted.
Right. Dale mentioned, I can't find Telegram on the Apple Store. Any thoughts?
I'll make sure that you have direct links to the store. I'll put those in the social media discussion, and if you want to get that peeled out, Dan, and available within your page, that'd be fantastic. But I'll make sure I update the social media discussion page on MeWe.
Okay, so just to reiterate, that link to join Rich's social media discussion page is on empoweruohio.org under the March 16th class. It's at the very top. So everyone that's on MeWe, join that, and please send me a friend request or I'm going to have my feelings hurt. Harry says, how do you log out of Telegram?
So let's see, on Telegram, there is an option to under the account. Let's see if I can find this one. That I know that's a tricky one. Oh, it's under settings. Settings. It shows your profile, and then you can click log out. Does that help?
And Sandy asked the question, if you don't want to keep your info in Facebook, can you remove it? Yeah, you can totally delete your account, right?
Well, somewhat. So all of your attachments, all of your images and so forth are effectively, as soon as they're posted, Facebook property. And so you can delete your account, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it deletes your data.
Okay, Rich Inman, you've been so great. Your analytical, organized mind and kind of walking us through this. It's been so helpful to me because, to be honest with you, I've kind of struggled with the MeWe, and I'm gonna try my best to post something every day. I mean, I posted something about my favorite TV show of all time until last night, and that's The Bachelor for all you fans out there today. But thanks so much for offering to help people, because it is so important that we have alternatives, and we appreciate it. And thanks for joining Empower You tonight, Rich. And we just have a couple closing thoughts, everybody. Rich, if you would unshare your screen, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly.
But thank you, Rich, so much. And just a couple things I need to tell you all in closing. First of all, Lee wanted me to pass along about the Convention of States, that she'll be at the Empower You event that Empower You is teaming up with another group at the the 20th Century Theater on April 13th for Bob McCune's class. We're traveling on the road to Oakley for that. If you haven't seen Bob McCune speak, he's he's just one of the best speakers I've ever heard talk. Kathleen, I thought, had a really good comment about the Convention of States. The Convention of States might be able to save the United States. Our winner of the false alarm book, Carl, I'm very sorry you didn't win, but thanks for reminding me. It was an anonymous attendee that started off their name with HUT C, I'll be contacting you to get an address to send your winnings. So let's just end with a quick. I just have a quick Empower You Empowered Citizens Award. I want to award. I've never done this before, but this is a duplicate. So hang in there. And that is, I just felt like I needed to bring this up. This is a repeat, so sorry, but our friend Bob Dylan, you may have heard Brian Thomas talk about him this morning. This is when he was 103. He'll be 104 on March 21st. Betty and I were just wanted to give a second mention and ask you to consider sending Bob a card, a birthday card to him. His address is on our website under tonight's class, Empower You, or his address is right here. And I just think it would be so cool if Bob got tons of mail from people all over the area that just are so appreciative of his work. With that, I say to you, happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. I look forward soon to be sharing a green or really any kind of beer with you, really. And that'll be fun. I look forward to seeing you in Empower You Studio, and it's going to be a little easier getting into Empower You Studio, I think, as things get better out there. We need to be realistic about that. Anyway, I just want to tell you tonight to go out and empower you, and this song goes out to Bob Dylan, a great American hero, on his birthday.